Uh, Good evening, Ajahn. This is Transportation Engineering Term Project. My name is Tai Keng Lee, and this is my ID number. My project is LRT or BRT, the choice for Phnom Penh. So there are four parts in my presentation. Start with the general information of Phnom Penh, and followed by the introduction of LRT and BRT. And the third part is the decision why we choose LRT over BRT. And the final part is the caution after LRT is adopted. So a glance on Phnom Penh, the capital city of Cambodia. There are 2.2 million people in the city now, and with the total population of Cambodia at 16.8 million people. And the number of vehicles in the city, there are 0.44 million automobiles and 1.6 million motorcycles as in 2016, and 77% of the vehicles were motorcycle. And the road density is 2.03 km per square kilometer. So let's move on to the traffic condition in Phnom Penh. In this picture, it represents the ratio between the motorcycle and other motomobiles and how congested the city is. The traffic condition in Phnom Penh has gradually worsened and become chaotic in recent years, owing to the rapid increase of motorized vehicles caused by the concentration of the population in the capital. The number of registered vehicles has been increasing at a rate of about 15% each year, and approximately 77% of all registered vehicles are motorcycles. The motorcycle is the majority in the traffic. It occupies between 70 to 90% of the traffic volume. The low speed of less than 10 km per hour was observed on major arterial roads across the city during the evening peak. And the traffic condition in Phnom Penh reached a serious level, which means the speed would be less than 15 km per hour, and there are a lot of like there are many major arterial roads in the city experience the traffic speed less than 10 km per hour. So how did we get to this point? To answer this question, we had to look at two numbers. One is the population, and the second is the vehicles. As you can see, the ratio between population and vehicle is almost 1-to-1. So why do we need so many vehicles? This may stem from the fact that Phnom Penh missing an important piece, which is a proper public transport. A lack of proper public transport leads to the informal transport, which are motor and remorque, and they are sometimes called as third world transport. But they are used occasionally because of the travel costs are typically higher than the ability to pay for daily commute. So in order to afford the uh, living costs in the city, people have to own their personal vehicles. And recently, the government has introduced the public bus system, but due to its poor quality, uh, it cannot convince passengers to give up their motorcycles. On the left picture is the motor, which is motorcycle taxi, and on the right picture is remote. It is a motorcycle that have a cart behind it, and this type of vehicles disturb the traffic flow because it doesn't have enough power to pull the cart behind it. Having million vehicles in the traffic is a challenge, but their absence from the traffic, which is parking, could worsen the congestion further for a city that the parking facility are scarce. And the total number of parking facilities is much lower than what parking demand requires. This gives the right to the roadside parking and sidewalk parking. Roadside parking is provided along some roads under the approval from the City Hall, but illegal parking is also a common practice. The sidewalks are often used as reserved parking space for shops or customer visiting shops, leaving no space for pedestrians, and this for pedestrians to walk on the street, which further worsen the traffic flow. So the problem it starts from the need of effective transportation, and with the absence of proper public transport, people have to own their private vehicles, and with such large number, it congested the road, and the problem move in circle to the start again, which is the need of effective transportation. So we know now the need of effective transportation is the main reason that we need to solve. So why we need to solve this? It could because of improving the well-being of people, etc. And but there are two major reasons behind it. The first one is the economic loss. Traffic congestion reduce economic activities and increase transport costs. And plus, Cambodia does not manufacture these vehicles and the fuel that power them. The second reason is the traffic accident. 90% of traffic accidents involves motorcycles. More than 80% of the fatalities were motorcyclists, pedestrians, and cyclists. The fatality rate is 11.9 per 100,000 people, which is 3.4 times higher than that of Japan. And the majority of the fatality fall to the young people, which is a great loss to the nation. So let's move to the solution option, which are the LRT and BRT. Other transit systems, for example subway and SkyTrain, were excluded due to its high cost and its oversized capacity for Phnom Penh. Those transit systems require a population between 3 to 15 million people to be successful. LRT comes from light rail transit. It is the urban train that usually has fewer carriage than heavy rail, which refer to ordinary train, metro, or subway. LRT is also known as streetcar, tram, modern tram, and in some places, LRT refer to a different physical vehicle. So to limit the scope, in this study we refer the LRT to a type of vehicle that possess these three principles, which are steel wheels and tracks, electrical powered, and run on the ground with its own right of way. The BRT stands for Bus Rapid Transit. It is a bus transit system with its own dedicated lane. As you can see in the picture, the private vehicle cannot use the bus lane. So let's see a comparison case involving a LRT system in Spain and BRT in Italy. In general, the LRT has the edge over BRT in terms of, for example, the speed, the capacity, the punctuality, the accident, energy, and noise pollution. The drawback of LRT is the initial investment cost, but its operating cost is lower than BRT. So from this comparison, we can see that LRT is the winner. But a well-performed transit in one city cannot guarantee its success in another city. It comes down to the characteristic of the city and politics, etc. And for Phnom Penh, LRT would have a better chance of success. The first reason why LRT could be the success system in Phnom Penh is the road characteristic. As you can see in the picture, the red line represents the arterial road and the purple line represents the collector road. These road systems are not wide enough to support the BRT. As you can see, even the arterial road, it has only 2 lanes for car and 1 lane for motorcycle in one direction, and the require for a efficient BRT is 2 lanes per one direction. So that means there is no space for private car on even the arterial road. So that could be a barrier to implementation of BRT to the city. While the LRT, it requires only 2 lanes for both directions. And the reason why BRT needs 2 lanes in one direction is because it needs to overtake the bus at the station or during their movement on the lane. Otherwise, the BRT would experience bunching, which, as in the picture, 2 buses arrive at the same time. That proves the system inefficient. The second reason is the capacity. The BRT has lower capacity than LRT, and if we look at the 2012 traffic, there are around 1.1 million vehicles in Phnom Penh, and the traffic volume on the Roshan Boulevard, one of the largest roads, reached around this number per day. And if we projected that number to the traffic in 2023, with the assumption that the ratio between vehicle and people is 1 to 1, that means there are 2 million vehicles, and we could translate that number to the traffic volume to be 12,000 vehicles per hour, and that is the average traffic volume, and the peak traffic volume is normally higher than the average traffic volume. So it means the traffic in Phnom Penh is definitely over the capacity of the BRT. And to operate the LRT in the city, it requires at least 3,000 passengers per hour. So from the traffic volume we projected from 2012, it means that the LRT would pass the criteria of both the minimum passenger and the maximum passenger, and this makes the LRT a perfect match compared to the BRT for Phnom Penh. Another reason is the psychology. Rail is often preferred to bus even for similar transport conditions in terms of waiting, travel time, and cost. Many public transport studies have found that potential passengers considered rail-based public transport to be superior to bus system. This comes down to a term called psychological rail factor. It is a preference for using rail, assuming even though it has similar performance like other transportation system, and it is highly loaded with the emotional and social attribution. The LRT usually has a more positive image due to the success story in the Europe, for example in the Zurich, while the BRT has generally has negative image due to the connection with the bus system, the ordinary bus system. And for example, in Bangkok, the BRT project here it suffers from the image that people have about the bus system, and the BRT in Bangkok is not, we can say, is not a successful story, and Phnom Penh could experience the similar scenario because of the image of the bus system we have now in Phnom Penh, which is slow and unreliable in terms of punctuality. So the LRT would have a better chance to success due to its higher positive image. Another reason is the participation. The community participation is the fundamental for ensuring that projects do not fall victims to the change in political administration. For example, in Bangkok, when the mayor of the city changed after the election, the new mayor canceled all the contract of the BRT, and make the BRT system obsolete until now. And so the as I have mentioned earlier, the BRT experienced a poor image, and some people are embarrassed by riding the bus. This may be due to the connection to the social status. So for these two reasons, it could lower the community participation, and that's why the LRT have a higher have a upper hand to the BRT. Another reason is the space creation. The LRT project usually come with a phenomenon called global effect, which transform the city center into an aesthetically appealing place where the pedestrian and public space are priority over the private vehicles. For example, there are in the Croydon, after introducing the LRT, the public space become greener, and this promote a healthier lifestyle and more open and sociable space for the public. The same pattern happened in Reims. The LRT project erect around 1,700 trees and other green space in the city. Another reason is the city image. There are arguments that the LRT could enhance the image of the city. And this may due to the notion that railway system is the symbol of development, progress, and identity. For example, the LRT was used to promote Newcastle and Jerusalem to promote these two cities and attract people into these two cities during the sport event in Jerusalem. And another reason is the economic opportunity. There is a relationship between a high-quality transit system and world-class city status. There is a belief that cities with bus system remain as the second-tier cities, and implying that those with some sort of rail-based system gain a competitive edge. This competitive edge would stimulate the economic growth through its ability to attract more people, business, visitor, resident. Thus, it drawing inward investment and eventually contributing to the overall economic growth. For an example, the Vancouver. Vancouver is a mid-sized city, but was referred as was considered as developed city, and some would argue that this is because of the SkyTrain of the city. So there is a hope that Phnom Penh could uh, raise its status by um, introducing the uh, LR, LRT, and if the if Phnom Penh could achieve that the status of the world city, combined with its strategic location, which is the intersection between Indochina Southern Corridor and the Growth Corridor. For these two reasons, it would turn Phnom Penh to become a manufacturing, service and trade center in the region. And the last reason is uh, the meaning of space creation in terms of economy. So in Phnom Penh, many shops consider the space in front of their shop as their territory and use it for their business, leaving no space for pedestrians. This provides a bad image for the city. But with the implementation of LRT, it would uh, create a better image due to the space creation from the project. As you can see in this picture, uh, the sidewalk was used by both the shop and the pedestrian, and it could eventually stimulate the economy. And the last part is the caution after LRT is adopted. So after LRT is adopted, the urban design has to intervene. For example, the tree planting and the installation of shading device because of the climate condition of Phnom Penh, which is hot and humid, and this could create awful smell uh, for traveler who need to walk to the transit station. And another point is the design of the sidewalk. If the sidewalk is unfriendly to passenger, then there is a chance that they will use another transport system, or specifically is their private vehicle. And we also have to consider the characteristic of the people in Phnom Penh. About 60% of the trip with a distance over 300 meters are accomplished by using some mode of transport. And the main reason behind this is the is that walking is not their custom. They don't have the habit to walk, and so the government should provide some method for the resident to move between station to station. For example, introducing biking, like those in Taiwan, which For passengers who board on the public transport, they can use the uh, bicycle to move to another location, which is uh, around 300 meters. Another point is um, the traffic rule regulation in Phnom Penh. It is common practice in Phnom Penh, and if we cannot erase this uh, malpractice, it would be a disaster for the LRT because the LRT need the priority at the intersection to move uh, to run on time to the next station. And the cost of the LRT would be would be a major point too, because if the cost is too high, it would turn the LRT to be an occasional choice, like the case of informal transit in Phnom Penh. And another caution that the uh, the government should be considered is the promotion scheme, because if they focus only on the equity, sometimes it would become counterproductive in terms of attracting growing middle class due to the strong sense of social status. So the government could otherwise introduce a a reduction cost for people with low income and the normal price for middle class people. And the last point is that the LRT could not stand alone. It has to integrate it with other transport systems to become an efficiency transport system in the city. Like in the Zurich, they integrate all public transport into a network that maximize the movement of people. So in this case, Phnom Penh could use its existing bus system as the feeder of the LRT. And here is the reference I use in this presentation. Thank you.